This Monaco Grand Prix 2024 Betting Picks edition of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play and win up to 100 times your entry with Underdog Fantasy Pick'em. Sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. We're also brought to you by the Mega Memorial Merch Sale. 15% off of everything in the SGPN merch store with promo code SGPNMay. Get ready for speed.
You just wait, sunshine. You just wait.
Get ready for the passion.
To whom it may concern you.
Get ready for the raw emotion.
Sì, ragazzi! Grazie, grazie, grazie! Dai, forza Ferrari!
Get ready for the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb. Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. We are in the midst of the greatest week of racing ever known to man. Yes, we are live on a Tuesday with the F1 Gambling Podcast in the afternoon. Bit of a busy schedule, like we said. We're bringing you 15 million episodes, so we're shifting things around, and we're going to do the Cup Series picks tonight for the Coke 600, but today we'll focus on Monaco and get you guys ready for, I suppose, the crown jewel, right, of the F1 schedule. This is where all the big wigs want to be seen and are seen. So, yeah, a good race always and a prestigious event.
Yeah, trying to figure out how to get all these shows in this week, Rod, is a lot of fun. But hey, it is fun. We're having a blast with it and having a really good time. F1 full slate of odds, came out last night, so we had a little more time to prepare for that. I'm still working on my Coke 600 odds, so we're doing that this afternoon. And then this evening, I'm actually going to be on the main show, Sports Gambling Podcast. I think that's going to be about 10:30 Central Time this evening. So make sure you check that out as well. Going to talk a little bit of racing and football over there. So that's going to be a fun time. But yeah, I'm ready to talk some Monaco in the new F1, Rod. No longer is Max Verstappen minus 700 favorite. That's out the window. We have F1 parity now, or do we?
Well, that's the thing too. Like, I don't know when the books opened up. We were looking at it and we eyeballed it because Verstappen at some books minus 150 to win this race. I get minus 150 is what it's usually for him to win and have the fastest lap. Minus 150 is what it is for usually to be the fastest in P1, not to win the race. So if you, we'll start this off by saying, if you want to bet Max at minus 150,
we're gonna have a conversation.
Okay, we'll talk about that. But
we'll talk about it.
All right, we'll talk about it in depth a little more. But yeah, this is actually a week in which you probably can take that bet. And honestly, and we'll talk about the races as they shape out too. This has not always been a slam dunk. Well, it's always a slam dunk for Max. Sometimes, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks, Cody, I don't know, is the field catching up to him, or are we seeing him sort of just play cat and mouse with the rest of it? I know he's frustrated. I know he gets mad at his cars, but like, is the field catching up to him?
It's a really hard question to answer, Rod. I think they're making gains. I think they definitely have, or Red Bull's made losses. I don't know. But I still think Max is Max, and I still think he's the king. I still think we're going to see him win a lot of these races. Personally, I enjoy having the odds this way this week. And I don't know. I think there's definitely has been gains made, right? And I think, honestly, looking through the grid, you could make a case for a solid 6 or 7 guys to probably win this race, or even, those guys to be the second place guy to Max. So I think that we're kind of continuing to take the step forward as far as things leveling out a little bit. I still think that Max is king and he's the best guy in the best car. But McLaren's right there, Ferrari's right there, Mercedes and Alonso have a little work to do. But at least, between those, the big three kind of it's kind of a new big three now, Rod. But this big three seem to be a lot closer than they were even at the start of the season, maybe.
Yep, and we'll find all of that out in Monaco, part of the biggest week in racing. You got the Indy 500 going on. We already talked about that on Monday. We got Monaco. We're talking about that now. The Coke 600. We'll talk about that tonight. Whew, we've got you covered, not to mention Trucks, Xfinity, and our DFS episode that we do the last time. I cannot believe how much racing we got going on. So much fun. Plus, you make sure to go and join our Kyle Larson diecast car giveaway. Now, Kyle Larson running the double, or at least attempting it. I mean, he already qualified for the Indy 500. We'll see if weather and big dignitaries prevent him from doing it. And Cody's got the graphic up there for you on YouTube. That beautiful diecast of his Indy car and, of course, his Cup car for that. Signed and everything. You want that? You know you do. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/race to register, and make sure to subscribe to our channels, both the F1 Gambling Podcast and the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, to make sure you get in on that. Simple. All you got to do is pick the winner of all three events, and we're even going to give you Monaco without Max. So it may get you a little bit more wiggle room to pick somebody else other than Max Verstappen. So we get it. We know it. We know exactly how this is. So pick the three winners. We don't want a free square. We want you to work for it, but make sure to get down there. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/race to enter. Plus, we're running a mega Memorial Day merch sale. 15% off of everything in the merch store with the promo code SGP. And May, you want a Snappy Racing podcast sweater, you want a hat, you want a coffee mug, it's all there for you. Use that promo code SGP and May. All right. Justin of the Old Fashioned Fantasy Football has been begging to tell us a story. So we want to tell his story because part of Monaco, right? We love you, Justin. Here's so the last time and only time I saw the Monaco Grand Prix, it was interrupted when Whiplash got on the track and took Iron Man's car out because Tony Stark decided to race his own car. The driver of the car was pissed. Did you actually watch that? Were you there during the filming of that? Because that would be fantastic if you were actually there during the filming of that. Monaco, definitely in so many movies, right? I mean, Monaco was part of Haas, right? They had the Monaco, they did Monaco in Cars. So this is one of the ones that gets a lot of, what's his name? The spy, James Bond, always part of Monaco, right? That was,
it's through the streets of Monte Carlo. Like, of course it's popular. It's it's what the place to be.
It is the place to be, especially for this weekend. It is, of course, the Monaco Grand Prix. We are okay. This circuit looks like a slingshot. I think I've already said this before. Like the handle part of it is between 29 and 1. I think, and then the little whippy part is right behind it. But this is definitely a very tight
little
course.
Whippy part.
The little whippy part. Whatever. I don't know. I
mean, slingshot. It took a sec for it to load for me, but we're gonna go with slingshot. I think that's a good explanation. Boji Joe checking in too, Rod. Alonso had him last year. Maybe McLaren's front wing design gets him here. Alonso had him until he didn't. He says Piastri. Oh, I'd love to see it. Big Piastri guy, Rod. I just don't know if I have the faith to bet in him. But also says greatest racing weekend every year. And story time. New segment, question mark. Story time. Story time with Rod and Cody. Maybe that's an off-season thing.
I think that would have to be like a special edition. We would have to do that like on, what a bonus episode type of a thing. Because I tell you what, people have already gotten roasted on our reviews about having 9 minutes in and they finally just get to, not us. I mean, you guys.
Yeah, some people are hating on some of the other shows. We have a thing where all the podcast reviews go to everyone, and it was like 9 minutes in and there's not a pick. I'm like, oof, don't listen to our shows, Rod, because you got to set the day up. Come on, or find the fast forward button and get to the picks if you want.
See, and this is we live in a day and age. Now, I can't give time codes out anymore because our ads that pre-roll sometimes throw that off, so I can't always give you a precise time. But look, imagine living in a day and age where you can actually hit 15 seconds forward, 15 seconds forward, 15 seconds forward, and then go, oh, there's the picks. Whatever, I don't care. Justin kind of tying it up. No, he wasn't at the filming of that, but he did look when the race was up, marked it on his calendar to get on the F1 Gambling Podcast to talk about Tony Stark. Listen, I appreciate that movie, and I really do. That was a lot of fun to watch that as an F1 fan going, oh my God, that would never happen. However, we are on the Circuit de Monaco, which is in the streets of, like you said, Monte Carlo. First Grand Prix of 1950, 78 laps around this for 3.317 kilometers. So this is a short track, not even a full 5 kilometers like or like normal. So 260 kilometers is this race, which is even more than the 190 kilometers that it usually is. The lap record, Lewis Hamilton, 1 minute and 12 seconds. One DRS zone between turns 17 and 18 of these 19 corners. 19 corners, dude. That's a crazy. There's a big 90-degree right-hander.
It's not a long track, but it's a twisty, turny track for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of craziness that is going on. That DRS zone is not even very long. That's the thing. Like, it's literally just one DRS zone straight between, like, a quick little straightaway between 17 and 18. It's just, it's crazy going on. So yeah, I mean, this is got a technical track. This has claimed a lot of folks as far as their days being over. And yeah, I mean, we're going to see, and really the margin of victory too hasn't been that big here either. So you're going to see a nice, tidy little race and having some fun with that. Weather was a part of it a couple of years ago, right? And so obviously that kind of throws the numbers out the window. My brother checking in saying, do you guys even have an off season? No, sir.
Not really. I mean, we cut it back a little in the off season, but there's plenty of stuff to talk about year round with racing, which we love. The college experience checking in as well. Make sure you check those guys out for all of your college stuff. Man, yeah, all these great shows on the network tuning in, so we appreciate it, guys.
Indeed. Cody, is there any other news that you wanted to touch on before we start laying out our bets? Because I feel like it's time to lay out some bets.
I think it's time to get into the bets. Not a ton of news or anything crazy going on. I don't know if you've seen. Did you see the McLaren livery for this weekend?
Ooh, that's beautiful.
It is absolutely beautiful. Make sure you go and look that up. Nice tribute to Sienna. So yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful car, and it would look good in victory lane if they really are here to compete with Red Bull.
You know, Lando knows he is, and Piastri's got the confidence. So I'll just hope his finishes actually to kind of mirror up to that. So yeah, we'll definitely talk all about that. But first, let me tell you about Underdog Fantasy. The NBA playoffs are here. Our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, want to make it a lot more interesting because Underdog Fantasy, let's face it, it's the easiest place to play fantasy sports. You play their pick'em. It's as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and so much more. And of course, in the world of racing like F1, you just pick better than or worse than the projected finishing position of your favorite drivers. You can make all your entries in just one sport like basketball, or mix and match across all your favorite sports like racing, like F1, like NASCAR, like all 3 series. There's even some baseball in there if you like that. There's hockey. There's that other sport that's called the PGA. All that stuff's going on as well. So you can win up to 100 times your money. Plus, it's a ton of fun. New customers, you're going to get a pickup special in the lobby when you sign up, so go make sure you do that. Underdog's also going to be running a ton of different promos, bonus cash, airdrop specials, giveaways, and so much more through the NBA playoffs. So you got to make sure to follow at Underdog Picks on Twitter to keep an eye out. Underdog's available in 30 or more states, including California, Texas, and Canada. They just launched Champions 2, their player versus player format in Florida. So sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN.
Rod, make sure you're staying tuned to sportsgamblingpodcast.com this week because there's going to be an Underdog article for F1. So I'll have that out later in the week. There's no F1 plays up yet, but those usually come out a little later in the week. So be watching out for that article and a good way to get in on some Underdog for F1. We've got no Indy 500, unfortunately, from Underdog, but the other 4 races, the 3 NASCAR races, and F1 Monaco here will all be on Underdog. So plenty of Underdog action to get in on this weekend.
Yeah, and just like Joe says, if you haven't played Underdog Fantasy yet, you ain't from California. I love Underdog Fantasy, so definitely get down on that. I got to get better at making shorts. Guys, I'm not buying shorts, making shorts. I've got to get better at doing that because I know
your own shorts, Rod. That's crazy.
Well,
you can buy those at the store.
What store? I don't know what this store is. All I know is that I like to make all of my own clothes, which you can tell. No, just kidding. Yeah, I need to get
I
better.
just buy mine at the merch store.
Hey, listen, that's not a bad place to stock up too, like a walking billboard for a Sports Gambling Podcast Network. All right, because we don't want to be accused of going too long without making picks, Cody, let us begin by making picks for this Monaco Grand Prix in Monte Carlo.
Let's make some picks, Rod, and we're going to start with my guy, Yuki Tsunoda. He has been cashing for us this season. He's going to keep cashing for us. So 2 ways to get in on Yuki here. I'm going to take him to finish in the points, Rod, plus 110. Starting to figure it out a little bit with Yuki. They're realizing that he's for real. So the numbers definitely dropped from what we've been getting it at, but still like it even at this number at plus 110. Then I'm also going to take him over his teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, minus 143. Little bit juiced up, Rod, but only pay the juice if you lose, which is not going to be a problem here. Not worried about that. So Yuki Tsunoda, Rod, 4 points finishes in the last 5 races. If you're new to this, because some people haven't paid attention to F1 always, a points finish is top 10. There's 20 cars in the race. Top 10 get awarded points, so that's a points finish, just for a little clarification there. But Yuki Tsunoda, points finish, plus 110. He's done it in 4 of the last 5 races, even at 7th place finishes at Miami and Australia. So not just in the points, but well in the points there. Also ended last season. He kind of started to get hot there, where he had points finishes in 2 of the last 3 races. So really like that. Also 9 times last season. I mean, he was either in the points or 11th place. He had quite a few 11th place finishes right there outside of the points, which if you're going to be in 11th, you're close to getting those points. So I like it. Track record here, Rod, not super great. So that is a little bit to worry about. 15th, 17th, 16th, not horrible days, but not great days either. But I think we're seeing a little bit of a different Yuki this year. I think the V-Carb team is kind of, at least from the Yuki side of things, really figuring some stuff out. I think Ricciardo's got some work to do still, but Yuki's clearly kind of been the best of the rest throughout the entire season for the most part, with the exception of a couple of, not Magnussen, Hulkenberg actually has been the other one that's gotten in there, but it's been Yuki more times than it hasn't. So like him to finish in the points. And as far as finishing over Daniel Ricciardo, he's 5 for 7 this season, Rod, finishing over Ricciardo. It's not really been close in the 5 races where Yuki actually finishes. Neither of them finished at China. Daniel just happened to get him by 1 spot. And then in the other one that he got him at Bahrain to open the season, again, it was just 1 spot that Ricciardo got him for. So I know Ricciardo's won here before. Yes, that was a long time ago, though. And if you go back, so Ricciardo was not in this race last season. It was still
he was still driving for Red Bull. He was the backup driver.
Yeah, well, he was the backup driver. Yeah, before they took De Vries out and put him in here. So he wasn't in the race last year, but only a couple of spots ahead of Yuki the 2 previous years in McLarens in 2021 and 2022, Rod. So I feel like Yuki will be just fine going up against his teammate here. Not afraid to pay a little juice because, again, you want to pay the juice if you lose. We're far enough into the season now with 7 rounds under our belts of this schedule. We kind of know how things are going, and 5 out of 7, and the only 2 times he hasn't beat him are races where he's had either not finished or had some other types of issues throughout the race like he did in China. So, love these for Tsunoda. Points finish plus 110, and to beat Daniel Ricciardo minus 143. And the head-to-head, the only place I've seen head-to-head so far, Bet Rivers. So shout out to them. That's where I got that from.
Love it. I left Yuki for you. I literally had Yuki kind of on my mind, but look, we only have 20 drivers in this, so we know our favorites. And I was like, yeah, no, Cody's going to take Yuki points, especially because it's plus money. We're definitely down for that. So I do, and I love Yuki Tsunoda. For anything that I ever doubted him, it's not, it hasn't been fun. And for Ricciardo, tried to put so much on him just to do well, and he's just struggling. I don't know what it is about it, but pay juice on the yellow car. We'll talk about those in a second, I'm sure. I'm thinking you're talking the McLarens, that's for sure. All right, my first bet, I'm turning to the qualifying range. This season, it hasn't mattered. You could come out and hear Max complain on every lap of every practice of every turn. My car's not right, mate. I got a little snug. I don't feel right. This isn't good. My car is shit. Like, you could hear every single one of Max gripes, and he'll come out and put on the pole. He'll put that car right there in the front of the pack like he's done every single race. I know this is Monaco, and I understand that, this is a little bit different and it's not really quite as dominant of a driver here as he is everywhere else. But come on, man, it's Max Verstappen. Like, it plus money for him to qualify on the pole, something he has done every single time this season and twice in the last 3 races on this track. Like, I'm look, plus 140 for this. I don't feel like I need to make too much of a heavier case on it, because Max can come out and have the worst practice one you've ever seen. People are going to be like, oh, in fact, you may even wait on this until all 3 practices are done. And maybe Max has, go a little heavier. You can put something on it now and kind of wait and go a little heavier when it's into practice 3. And he's like, oh my God, my pace is off. I don't know what's going on. And then next thing you know, he's, putting on the final lap of the qualifying in P3, just tearing it up and getting the pole. So yeah, I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's Max winning qualifying at plus money. I think you got to grab it, because if he does come out and do well in practices, you're not getting this later on in the session.
How many times did you say he has not been on the pole this season, Rod?
Oh, I didn't. I think I said a big fat 0. Every single race he's been on the pole.
7 for 7, and you're getting him at plus 140. And 2 out of the last 3 on this circuit specifically.
A lot of respect for Monaco. That's really what this is. This is a lot of respect.
And I've got more thoughts on Max I'm going to get to here in a few, but let's not overreact to what we've seen the last couple of weeks, I think is the big lesson we're going to learn this week, Rob.
Yep. I think that's what they're doing too. They're hedging on the fact that there's been a tightening up of the belt and everybody else is starting to catch up, but he's still Max Verstappen. They probably went home and waved a magic wizard wand, and now Red Bull's got 500 kilometers faster than everybody else.
You think it'll give him wings, Rob?
They dumped a bunch of Red Bull in it to give him wings. All right, you know what? I'm getting out of this. Let's tell you about our new fans at Rhythm. If you're betting on NBA player props, then you got to download Rhythm. Rhythm gives you a menu of best player props for every single NBA playoff game, making it easy to go through and find the best props to put out your money on in seconds. Rhythm predictions are backed by over 3 years of data and a team of data scientists and quants that focus on fine-tuning our algorithm to give you the best shot at winning. Rhythm pairs its predictions with player props graphs to help you feel even more confident in your picks, which you can make wherever you normally place, whenever, doesn't matter. You place your bets or DFS picks. From superstars to bench players, Rhythm finds the best player prop lines, all backed by AI data without you needing to endlessly scroll a sports book. Rhythm also allows you to create your own custom NBA models so you can get AI-backed money line, spread, and total picks for every playoff game. Start a free 7-day trial and start winning your NBA player props with Rhythm. Available wherever you get your apps. All right.
Jessica checking in says should be exciting race. Agree with her. Boji Joe also saying this track's nothing like anything they've raced so far this year. That is very true, right? We've not seen, a street circuit like this one for sure. So we're going to lean a little bit on the past, but again, we've established a lot of things this season, and Max has done it at Monaco here lately too. So I think that kind of goes into it. But like in NASCAR, what track numbers are comparable, and yeah, agreed. You're going to look at tracks that are similar. But sometimes it's hard to go back and look at last year because a lot of things have changed from last year. Mercedes was a lot more of a player then. McLaren was kind of coming on, but not to the degree they are now. So, yeah, you want to be careful going too far back and leaning too much into that. I think we've learned a lot through the first 7 races this season. And, yes, this is going to be something different than we've seen for sure. But I think a lot of stuff's going to hold true. And I've got some angles coming up here in a little bit that are going to lean into what you're talking about there as well, Bodie Joe.
Indeed. And again, like we said, too, a couple seasons ago, you can't even the thing about it, too, a couple seasons ago with this being heavy rain and having it delayed and everything like that, and then coming out and just really bad weather conditions, that even changed the whole complexion of that race, which is one that Max Verstappen didn't end up winning. Right. So it's kind of like, well, what do? You can't, you have to throw that out because that was weather related. And then the other two in great weather, it's pretty crazy. So anyways, Cody, what's our next bet?
Next up for me, Rod, liking the matchups this weekend. Getting some decent ones with the teammates here. I'm going to take Esteban Ocon over Pierre Gasly, also minus 143 over in Bet Rivers. They're giving you the matchups. Not really nice numbers necessarily, but again, it's one that I'm fine taking, Rod, and I'm fine taking it because it's hitting 6 of 7 races. So sounds pretty damn good to me, right? Alpine comes out the season to open the year, and it is like holy slow. Rod, you could probably drive faster in a Ford Focus than you could with these Alpine cars, and it's like, holy shit, what's going on? Everybody at the top of the Alpine quits and leaves, and then quietly, we kind of talked about it last week, they've been inching forward and doing well. I really wanted to take Ocon in the points week, Rod. He's only like plus 125. They knew that was coming, so unfortunately, they kind of outpriced it here. But Ocon actually on the podium last season here, and Gasly finished in 7th. Now, that's not going to happen this year, right? Ocon's not going to finish 3rd. Gasly not going to finish 7th. But impressive runs from them last season. Again, to the point of things changed. Things have definitely changed. Expect good runs out of especially Ocon this week. But again, like it's been the Ocon show as far as the Alpine go this season. 6 out of 7 races where it's been him. The only head-to-head that Gasly won was in Australia. Again, that was kind of a wacky race. You had a bunch of guys drop out at the front of the race. Max had his issues and all of that. And if you go back to the 2022 race, Gasly was 11th, Ocon was 12th. So Gasly did get him there, but they were really close together there. And this is another one of, we've seen it this season. Ocon is clearly the number one guy over there. And Gasly's runs have been getting better as well, but Ocon's been right on the edge of the points, scored points a couple of weeks ago. I think that was in Miami as well. So, yeah, I really like Ocon this week. Again, I wanted to get in on him to finish the points or maybe even to be the, best of the rest type of bet, but numbers weren't quite right. I do really like this one over Gasly, though. Minus 143, again, a little bit juiced up on these matchups, but I think they're juiced up for a good reason, Rod, because it's pretty clear at this point in time. And for whatever reason, the books in F1 don't really like to match up across. They like the teammate matchups, but you don't hardly see any matchups across from that. It's sometimes, like on the back, the backdoor books and stuff like that, you can get closer to the race. But as far as early in the week, you don't see many that aren't teammate matchups. And a lot of them, it's Max, minus 1,000 over Checo and Checo's, they're tough matchups. So, I think the number's right on these two. So I like the Ocon over Gasly at minus 143. Again, that one's over on Bet Rivers also.
Yeah, poor Alpine. They last year they were our darlings for top 10s. They were double points.
They were the Yuki of this season.
Yeah.
I loved that we would hit them every single week, and not. And again, I think we're gonna have some spots because I think we definitely have seen some improvements from them. But I think Ocon definitely has a shot at the points this week, but not betting wise because the number's just not there.
Somebody I do think has a decent shot at the points this week. That's Nico Hülkenberg. He's 2-1 to finish inside of the points. When you say Nico Hülkenberg, you're like, this is a tough one because Haas has not necessarily been lighting up the scoreboards this season. And I understand. Kevin Magnussen fits and spurts with that guy. Like you'll like him one race and then you won't the next. But for Hülkenberg, it's, believe it or not, been a very consistently steady season for Hülkenberg outside of Bahrain, right? He finished 16th at Bahrain, but he started inside the points. So that's encouraging at that point. But since then, 10th at Jeddah, 9th at Melbourne, 11th at Suzuka, 10th at Shanghai, 11th in Miami, 11 in Imola. So, look, he's been either in or outside of the points on every single race other than the first one of the season. And to be honest with you, he hasn't been that far out of a points paying position. Last week, Yuki got him in the end, right? But he was holding steady in the points for the better part of the last part of that race. Were it not for, I think Yuki had fresher tires and he was able to catch up with Nico at the end there. But they were fighting back and forth. Hülkenberg was fighting to stay in the points for the longest time in that race. So he did start 10th also. And that's another thing about this too. Nico started inside of the top 10 in the last 3 races. 9th, like I said, in Japan, 9th at Miami, and 10th in the Emilia Romagna. So, look, the track history for him here is not the greatest at all. In fact, you probably don't even want to look at it. And the one race that he's been in a Haas, he started 18th and finished 17th. But last season didn't feel like Hülkenberg had a whole lot of momentum going for him. It was not a good season for him there.
No.
Seems like something's turned around, and he's fighting for a points finish every single race so far this season. So, I do enjoy watching him race because he's actually a very clean racer. He doesn't really get all that nasty. So I think that's gone a long way to keep him in contention for points races and points finishes every single week. Plus, the guy's qualifying well for that Haas team. So, like I said, love that. Love him in the points. Still 2-1. That's a good number for him there. My brother saying, just an aside, guys, because Cody mentioned the McLaren livery. Looked it up. Barely follow F1, but remember Art and Senna and love the car. Got to watch the race. Got to watch it.
Yeah, you don't need to record it either. Just get up at 6 o'clock, get the coffee going, and it'll be on. You start your day off, and then rolls right into Indy, rolls right into the 600. It's a beautiful, beautiful day of racing. Boji Joe, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really know a ton about the aero and the speed and all of that stuff. So pretty tough questions for me to answer, I think. He does want to know about you and the Ford Focus finishing in the points. I think it's 20-1, so worth a bet for sure. And then Robert checking in. What's up, guys? I'm a NASCAR guy, but I'll try F1. Do F1 guys get in fist fights like NASCAR? Haven't seen a fist fight in the F1 in a little while, Rod.
It's not common. It's not common.
There's a lot more, in F1, they penalize you if you're mean to the other guys. So
yeah, they are.
It kind of, the stewards take care of things. But hey, we're glad you're checking out the F1 side of things. It's a lot of fun. It's just, you have to go with the mindset. It's very, very different racing from NASCAR. We grew up as, huge NASCAR fans and have been doing NASCAR our whole lives. F1 is a very different discipline, but when you learn the discipline and respect it for what it is, it's a lot of fun, and betting on it makes it a ton better. So I like it. JDK saying 6. No, it's 8 a.m. for us Central guys. I do everything in Pacific time just for Rod because it makes it easier on us. So it's 6 a.m. for you guys. So you'll be just fine.
Yeah, we've decided that the main time hub is Pacific time now because I'm too old and I'm grumpy and I don't want to switch.
The NASCAR Gambling Podcast, the F1 Gambling Podcast officially run on Pacific time, and I just try and always do the math, and I still mess it up half the time, and I'm like, wait, no, this time? No, I meant that time. When we try to get a guest on that's in the East Coast or something, it throws a wrench in the whole thing.
And I don't apologize at all for it because I am too old. But
all right, Rod, I'm going to kind of continue on your point with Nico here. I'm going to take the winner without, and so again, this is a winner without the big five. So you throw out Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, and Aston Martin. Winner without, I'm just going to take Haas at plus 250. So my plan was to give out Nico Hülkenberg like you did, but he's only plus 285. You can get Haas at plus 250. You might as well take the insurance of let's have Magnussen in here just in case. Magnussen needs to pull his head out of his ass because that's where it's been all season. But if he does, you get it in there for an extra 35 points. I'll take the little bit of a lower number to get the coverage with the teammate. But Rod, like I mentioned before, it's been the Yuki or Hülkenberg show all season as far as being the next best of these guys, right? So you go back in last week, it was Yuki in 10th, Hülkenberg in 11th, so very close there. Hülkenberg had finished level 11th at Miami and Japan. 9th place finish at Australia, China, and Saudi. He finished in 10th place. So he's been having really good runs. And like you said, I almost kind of want to compare him to like Noah Gragson in the Cup Series or Taylor Gray in the Truck Series, where it's like, don't even look at what he did last season, because last season the results weren't that good. Magnussen was definitely the number one guy over there. But this season it's kind of been like a new, different driver. And I know he's been around a little longer than those other guys have. But it really is like a fresh new look at Nico Hülkenberg, and he's actually been doing pretty good there. So I like it. I think the number is really good at plus 250 to get them as the winner without. And then, Rod, I actually am going to give out some winners this week. So I lumped the fast lap bets into this box. And I'm going to take two guys for fast lap. I'm going to take Fernando Alonso because, Rod, with like 7 laps to go last week, that purple clock went to his name again. And I'm like, motherfucker, why do I not just bet this guy every week? Because he cashed for us again a couple of weeks ago at 66-1. Hit him at 33-1. I think we hit him at 40-1. Like 3 or 4 different times he's cashed these big numbers for us. So I'm just going to keep betting Fernando Alonso fast lap 20-1's a good number. I know he didn't end up with it at the end of the day last week, but when that clock went to his name, I'm just like, that's it. He's automatically in the sheet every week from here on out if you're getting a decent number. 20-1's a good number. And then, Rod, also Fernando Alonso finished second place in this race last year. And arguably, I mean, Max beat him by 27 seconds, but like Boji Joe, I think it was mentioned earlier, had maybe the car that could have beat Max for sure. So second place. So, and again, he seems to be one of those guys that has a lot of issues throughout the week and will end up having to start in the back like he did last week or something. And then that gives him that opportunity to throw on those tires late and go out and lay down a fast lap. So something like that we could see from him. Also, Rod, Yuki Tsunoda to be the fastest lap, 100-1. 2 times in the last 3 years, he's had the second fastest lap on the day at Monaco specifically, Rod. Plus, he's been doing even better this season. We just talked about how good he's been doing, how great his runs have been doing. And 2 of the last 3 years, he's been the second fastest, as far as second fastest lap laid down. And he's 100-1. Sign me up.
Yeah, as far as the fast laps are concerned, much like the numbers, I never argue with you on those because I just you seem to nail those fastest laps all over. I love that. And yes, great info that the second
fast lap is my that's my thing, Rod.
JDK
you're good at the numbers, but yeah.
Well, but your fast laps pay off a lot better than my numbers have to. JDK wants to know, are we doing back-to-back live pods? We will be doing the Coke 600 at 5:30 tonight Pacific. So
Pacific time, yes.
Yeah.
7:30 for you Central Time folks.
NASCAR gambling podcast time. That's what we're doing it.
Yes.
So, all right. My next bet is going to be the number of race leaders. Now, if you want, one is at plus 250. That is a great number. I think plus 250 still for one race leader is a good number. So if you want to take that, go ahead and take that. However, I believe plus 275 for 2 race leaders is a much better option. Look, Max hasn't come out and led every single lap of every single Grand Prix this season. There's actually been times where he hasn't led every single lap, which I get it. It's hard to believe. It's something that you don't necessarily hear all the time, but he did not lead every single lap last week in Italy. He didn't lead every single lap in Miami. In fact, he only led 22 laps in Miami, still ended up in second place. He did not lead every single lap in Japan. He did not lead every single lap in China. He did lead every single lap in Bahrain, but he didn't in Jeddah, obviously didn't in Australia. There have been different leaders at these races over the last couple of races. In fact, there was 2 last week at the Emilia Romagna. There were 3 at Miami. However, I'm kind of chalking that one up to some craziness anyways. But in China, there were 2. In Japan, there were 3. In like I said, Australia, there was only the 1 leader, 57 laps, but there was 2 in Saudi Arabia. And so there's been 2 quite a bit, right? And yeah, I mean, Arturo is right. There might even be 3 leaders. It is Monaco, which I understand, but you also have to understand that in 2 of the last 3 races, Max has led every single lap, all 78 laps in 2 of the last 3 races. So I get that there might be 3 that it's Monaco, but the only reason that over the last 3 seasons that there's been more than 1 person leading laps is because of the rain. I mean, that was, let's face it, the only reason why there was any sort of disparity at all in that one last year. And they only ran 64 laps, remember, because they had to start it and shorten it. So there was only 64 laps, 77 laps rather in this. So, and there was 3 leaders in that one. Perez led 44, Sainz led 3, and Leclerc led 17. So, but that was weather, and the 2 ones that there weren't weather, Max ran away with the whole thing. And the only reason why I'm saying that I don't think he's going to do it this time is that we've seen the last few races, the field has closed up around him. He doesn't jump out to those 28-second lead, 29-second leads that can afford him to go and get a pit stop and not lose a single spot, right? These have been 10, 15, 13-second gaps that he's going to have, that he has to play strategy on. So, yeah, I mean, unless there's a safety car and he gets an opportunity to get a kind of a free pit stop, then that's, I foresee at least 2 leaders while Max has to chase up back whoever stayed out on tires to kind of offset him.
Yeah, and passing at Monaco is extremely hard. It's probably the hardest circuit, and like passing for the lead I don't have it in front of me, Rod, but I think the last like green flag pass for the lead, not on pit cycles, was like 20 years ago, or so. Like it's like a ridiculous statistic. I'll have to look it up and share in the Discord later. But so yeah, it's probably going to be pit stop. So I think that's why having 2 I think is a good number, because it's gonna flip on a pit stop, and then Max is gonna take it back. And Rod, Max is going to run away with it, because minus 143 on Caesars. Look, you have to bet this, okay? He's minus 700 every week. Let's not overreact. I am fully invested. He was minus 125 a little bit ago. Hope you get that, but it's moved up as we've been talking to minus 143 over on Caesars. I would get in on it now, Rod. Minus 700 almost every single week. I get it, right? The last couple of weeks, we've seen some maybe chinks in the armor. We've seen some catching up. Okay. But Rod, he won 19 of 23 races last season. He's 5 for 7 this season. He won this race by 27 seconds last season. He was 3rd in 2022, the rain race you mentioned, but he won this race in 2021 again. I just in Boji Joe, why would Caesars give us minus 140? Well, that's everywhere. Like he's minus 140, minus 150, minus 175, everywhere. And I really just don't understand it. I think we're way overreacting to the point of it is hard to pass here. So if he doesn't start on the pole, I can see where it might be a little tougher for him. But Rod, like you said before, he probably is going to start on the pole. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we get to Sunday morning and suddenly Max is minus 800, minus 900, minus 1,000, and you're sitting on a minus 143, and you're like, can you believe I fucking got this? And even if this were to lose, I'm not going to feel bad about it, because you're betting on the guy, again, who has won. So what is that? That's the last, quick math, the last 47 races, he's won 26 of them. No, that's not right either. Jeez, I can't. No, not for. I'm not even going to tell you how I made that math mistake, Rod. I shouldn't have wrote down 2024 and added 23 to it, because that wouldn't make any sense. 19 races last season plus 7, not 24 this year so far. So 26 races. He's won 24 of, Jesus Christ. I don't know. Anyways, moving on, Rod. He's won a lot of fucking races the last couple of years. I don't understand. This is a way overreaction, and it's not like he's been bad at this track or he's had a lot of issues here. Again, in the last 2, non-rain races, and is it going to rain this weekend, Rod? I don't know. I haven't even looked, because it's fucking Tuesday, and they can't tell me what's going to happen in half an hour from now. So, and Boji Joe says we get it. Laugh aloud. Okay, just go bet Max at minus 143, because you're going to look back at this and you're going to be like, holy shit, I can't believe I got that. Also, Rod, I like to take insurance plays at times. And if I'm going to bet Max for the outright, I am going to take an insurance play. That insurance play is the king of the streets, Checo Perez, 16-1 outright. Also, you can get him to win the pole and the race at 40-1. I'm taking both of these, Rod. Let's not forget Checo Perez is in a very fast Red Bull as well. He's shown flashes. He's very hit and miss. Sometimes Checo shows up. Sometimes Checo doesn't. Checo could come out and win the pole for this race. Checo could also start in 18th place, Rod. It's both outcomes. But at 16-1, at 40-1, I like the odds you're getting here. 5 of his 6 wins have been on street circuits. He's very good specifically on the street circuits. He's got that patience and aggression, that perfect combination for these types of things. We saw it last year at Azerbaijan. When he started in front of Max, he was able to keep Max behind him and just outrun him. If he's able to start in front of Max this weekend, he can easily beat him. And that's why I love the pole and the win, because I think if Checo's going to win, it probably is going to have to come from the pole. But there's an outside chance that maybe a Charles Leclerc gets on the pole or something and Ferrari finds a way to fuck it up, because I wouldn't be surprised by that. So I like taking him 16-1 outright, but 40-1 as well. I think, again, let's not overreact, Rod. And yeah, last week was bumpy for Checo. I get it. He had to start farther back. He didn't come through the field that much. Okay, but how many times has he been on the podium this year? How many times has it been the Checo and Max show? More times than it hasn't. And if he doesn't show up, well, it was 16-1. It was 40-1. Oh, well. But if he does show up again, you're going to look back and be like, whoa, look at the price that we got on these. So, while I think that everyone else has made gains, yes, let's not forget, let's not overreact that Red Bull is Red Bull and what they've done lately, Rod. I really think that we're catching the books sleeping a little bit here. I think they're concerned about Monaco. I think they're concerned about the speed we've seen from everybody else. They've dropped the numbers. It's a good time to pounce on both Max and Checo to win this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, for this to be a thing where you're fearing any sort of weather, you don't. I mean, there's AM showers called for on Saturday, but Sunday's partly or mostly cloudy, with no chance of rain there. So yeah. So
if it's like other forecasters here, it's gonna rain.
So I mean, right now they're saying chance of morning showers on Saturday, which would be practicing and qualifying. But I don't see weather being a gigantic factor. Plus, tire selection is the same here as it was last week in Imola. So you've got C3, C4, C5s, right? C3 is the hard, C4 is the medium, and C5 is the soft. So strategy there too. And the degradation was not necessarily all that big of a factor in last week's race. So we'll see if that's the same this week as well. I want to go back to one thing. Who has the best chance? I think Cody pretty much laid it out. I think Checo does have a good chance. Or
Charles Leclerc. I mean, we've really you could make a case for Lando too. I think all of those guys have a chance. Best chance, it probably is Charles Leclerc, but he's only plus 300, and not really worth betting on.
No, not really. And then JDK says, if you think Max makes you think of qualifying the pole, I did that. I said that earlier. Yeah, I definitely think Max.
I wonder do we know what they are together? Should probably find that out. I'll look that up.
Fastest
to fastest qualifier and win the race. It is plus 210. I mean, I'd probably rather just take them by themselves, right? You get the plus 140 for him to be fastest qualifier, then in case he doesn't win. But if you like it this way, you can do it too. But I think he still can win even not starting first. I think he could easily be, outside row one and still get the win here.
I think he start third and get the win here. But anyways, my brother asking, how does one even go about handicapping a guy like Verstappen? Minus 700 seems unattainable.
Let me break this down, Rod. When he's minus 700, you don't bet him. When he's minus 143, you do bet him. That's how you break it.
or this is how we've always find different angles to sort of mix and match with Max Verstappen too, right? So Bet365 actually has a boost on here in which you can have Max to win, Lando to finish on the podium, and Lewis to finish in the points. 300 plus 300 for all three of those things to happen.
Lewis is actually the scariest part of that, which is just a sad thing to say, Rob.
And look I'll get there because Lewis I almost stopped when I was like, I definitely. And then I saw Lewis, I was like, but I'm still gonna go for this. Why? Because it doesn't matter how bad Lewis looks. Lewis Hamilton, the last time. Well, okay, let's put this in perspective. Lewis Hamilton has 16 starts on this track. There's only been one time in his entire career in which he did not finish inside of the points. That was back in 2009.
This is
fourth, 8th, 7th. Look, I get
this
it.
This is the opposite of Hulkenberg, Rod. This is the bad version of Lewis.
I understand. I fully understand.
Or the bad version of Mercedes. I don't think it's a Lewis problem. I think it's a Mercedes problem. But
okay, but for as bad as Mercedes has been, there has only been one race in which Lewis has not finished inside of the points, and that was in Australia, 18th. Other than that, 7th, 9th, 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 6th, 6th. He may look like garbage, but for Mercedes to look like garbage and finish in 6th.
Right. Well, and that is garbage for Mercedes is a 6th place finish. So, yeah, that's not bad. I mean, Lando should be up there, right? And
okay, I'll make my case for Lando here in a second. Lando, I'll get there, Cody. I'll get there.
Sorry. I apologize.
Lando on the podium.
Oh, this is your bet. I thought this was an additional bet you were talking about.
No,
I should probably pay attention to the sheet.
This is my bet. This is why I'm kind of making a nice Max is going to win this race, but other people are going to do well as well. Lando, obviously, we know that he is a podium machine this year, right? He's got 4 podiums in 7 starts, including 3 of his last 3, second, first, second for Lando. So, look, when you look at what he's done here on this course in particular, he's actually got a podium here in 2021 with McLaren, 6th place and 9th place on top of that. But as Cody's alluded to before, Lando's starting to pick this thing up. So Podium finishes for him are almost a given each and every week, almost as given as a Max Verstappen win. So if we're going to lump three things that have happened more often than they haven't together to get you 3-1 on this one, this is my favorite bet in the entire weekend because I still believe Max is going to win this race. Honestly, I know that they were close. I know things were close, but he said he was driving around a lunchbox last week, right? And he still ended up winning. Didn't matter. I mean, Lando maybe had a couple more laps. He could have caught him, but guess what? They didn't have a couple more laps. That was the race. I know they say, oh, if I only had a couple more laps, but you didn't. You didn't catch him. That's the end of the story. Max wins again, and he's just going to continue to win. So I think if you think Max is going to win and you really want a good return on investment, put Lando on the podium, put Lewis on the points, lump them all together. Bet365 did that for you, and you get plus 300. So I absolutely love this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, and you talked me into the Lewis part of it. So that was the part I was the most scared about, Rod. So I like it.
Pardon me for my allergies. I live in California, right across the street from a functional farm in which pollen continues to pelt me in the face.
You guys have farms in California? That's crazy.
We do, as a matter of fact. And I've got a levee that's right around there with the San Joaquin River out there. So, yeah, definitely.
Don't talk about rivers, Rod. We got everything in Nebraska's flooding right now.
Oji Joe says, send me some Benadryl. Listen, I've got some Allegra at home, but you don't even know the pollen out here. Like it is the strains are immune to anything you could throw at it. So Preston saying, can't wait for Andretti to get into F1 and great supersonic air travel so Kyle Larson can hit Monaco, Indy, and Coke 600.
I'll be the first driver to do the triple. I know that Rod was talking yesterday about the teleportation. So they're working on that behind the scenes. Look, if anybody can get it done, it's Mr. H and Chad Knaus. So that is good. Oops, sorry. I clicked off your comment. Nick Fortune, hello from Iowa. Survived the storms. Good grief, we have a lot of water now. Yeah, there's tornadoes came through from here and went to you guys' direction. We were in tornado watches and stuff this morning. I think there was one that touched down to the east of us. So glad to hear you guys are all safe out there. Been some crazy fucking weather, a lot of water. That's been our issue. We've had flooding. They had to deploy the National Guard north of me today to help with the flood and stuff. It's been crazy. I did want to touch on, Boji Joe asked any angle on who will not finish the race. I've tried to look at these before, but you just so kind of the way I guess to bet on this is to be classified no, right? But you're only getting plus 350 on like the second half of the field, and yeah, sure, like Logan Sargent sucks ass, but he still gets classified most of the time. So it's so hard to predict like who's gonna wreck out. We're not getting a ton of mechanical failures really this season. Like it's just throwing darts in my opinion. So I think that's a tougher one to do.
And again, because there's times where all 20 cars have finished the race. And so you're right. To be classified is probably the only bet that you can make on this. I mean, now granted, some books do have to not finish the race, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, Logan Sargent would be the first one that I would want to pick, right?
But you're not going to get a good odds on him. And then a lot of times he does finish the race. He just is horrible in the process of finishing the race.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't
Preston checking in. The only touchdowns Iowa gets are tornadoes. Suck it, Hawkeyes.
All right. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. And one more thing, Arturo, I really like Checo or Alonso fastest lap, even if they're losing. Easily change to the soft and get it. Yeah. I have to look at Checo's price. Alonso, I gave out a 20-1. I did really like him, but Checo is another guy who could, easily get it done, try and grab that extra point for them and everything. Sargent won't finish the race. He can't drive. Well, yeah, or he's just really slow at it. So maybe that's why he will finish it, because he's 6 laps behind everybody else. But
gotta wonder who they're getting next season. I don't think
you gotta think he's gone. I mean,
no retirements at 10-1. That actually,
this track is so tough, Rod. That these corners are so tight.
Yes,
you got stats on it? Because
go ahead. Because there's actually I did notice that there weren't as many retirements that we thought of. There were 3 in 2022, but that was of course like I said, the rain. There was 2 in 2023. One was a power unit, and Lance Stroll ended up crashing in that one. So honestly, over the last couple of seasons, there haven't been nearly as many as we think. Well, there's been some, yes.
This might be so. First driver to retire could be a market to attack a little more because you're getting like 12-1 is the lowest. So, but again, you just have to hit on the right guy. I don't know. And no rain, Preston. We had conversations about maybe, or because I think it was it the 22 race that had a lot of rain. And so we kind of kept bringing that up, but no rain this weekend, which I think again plays into the Max probably just obliterating everyone.
Yeah, I mean, again, he could probably lead every lap, and nobody would, and plus 250 for that too. You can.
Yeah, your brother said, "My bet Verstappen goes up 2 laps, stops for lunch, gets back in and wins the race." I'd probably bet on that if they're going to offer it.
That's the whole thing in Talladega Nights where the guy goes to grab a burger, right? And he's like, I'll go back on the track after I finish this burger. But the only difference is that Max would get back on the track and kick everyone's ass. So, all right, get out your pen and paper. It's time to go over our bets for the Monaco Grand Prix. Cody started you out with Yuki Tsunoda to finish inside of the points at plus 110. Also said that he would finish better than his teammate Danny Ricciardo at minus 143 over on Bet Rivers. I said go ahead and give Max that poll at plus 140. Cody said that Esteban Ocon would finish better than Pierre Gasly at minus 143, another teammate battle. I said that Nico Hülkenberg would finish inside of the points at plus 200. Cody said that the winner without all of the big 5, which that thing is starting to grow now, big 6, big 7, whatever, is going to be Haas at plus 250, and then gave the fastest laps to Alonso at 20-1 and Yuki at 100-1. I said, go ahead and put it on 2 race leaders if you're going to put money down. I can't fault you if you want to put it at 1 at plus 250, but I feel like there's not a big enough gap for Verstappen. So take the 2-liter at plus 275. Cody gave you Max to win this race. He's calling his race at minus 143. Checo at 16-1, and then Checo to win the pole and win the race at 40-1. And I said take advantage of Bet365's boost that they got going over there with Max to win, Lando on the podium, and Lewis in the points at plus 300. And that'll do it. That is our Monaco Grand Prix. This one's exciting because, again, we get to watch this, and then we get to watch the Indy, and then we get to watch. So this is going to kick it all off for us on Sunday.
Yeah, that's the great part. You wake up and you flip on Monaco. You West Coasters, you could probably start a little bit late and catch up. But and then right into the Indy 500, then we're right into the Coke 600. It is a hell of a day and a lot of fun.
A lot of fun that we're all looking forward to. Although, to be fully and completely honest, I am going to be watching this all on tape delay because I've got to work this weekend and I will be occupied all day long. So a little frustrating. But
yeah, that does suck. But
that's all right. I get to do it on my own time.
You get it. Exactly. So, Preston, if McLaren doesn't win with this Senna livery, we talked about that earlier in the show about how beautiful that car is. No, not really many McLaren bets. You had the Lando, tossed in there in the parlay basically. Tough. Again, they're getting to be so much favored that it makes it tough for sure. So Boji Joe wants to know about Xfinity and trucks. So a little scheduling for you. We're going to be back in about 2 hours with the Cup Series picks for the Coke 600. I'll be on tonight on the Sports Gambling Podcast, the main show, talking a little bit more racing. So check in there. We're going to talk some football. Unfortunately, they're going to force me to talk about the New England Patriots, which I'm not excited about, Rod, but that's okay.
Roast Bill Belichick. That seems to be the thing to do.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and then tomorrow we'll be back with Xfinity picks, trucks on Thursday, and then wrap it all up with DFS on Friday. And then we'll be into racing, which is going to be beautiful.
Indeed. Yeah, we're pulling the double today. So we're going to fly. As soon as we're done here, I got to go ahead and fly to the other studio, and it'll take about 2 hours. I'm going to jump on a helicopter and a plane and a helicopter. I'll touch down. We'll hit the other studio, and then we'll hit the Cup Series pick, which is to say, I just got to go pick up my kids from school and come back. So
we're going to have Rod's wife take a video of him running into the studio. Like, Rod has arrived on time for the second leg of today's podcast.
Changing my tracksuit just so I can make sure that I got the right.
He's pulling a new shirt on. Like, here he comes.
Sit down with the interview with Kevin Harvick, who's been warming up my seat while I'm out there. So, yeah, for sure. All right. Well then, Cody, as I depart from my helicopter and get ready to fly out to the next studio, why don't you let everybody know where they can continue to talk to you while I'm in the air?
Yes, Rod. Safe travels for you. You can follow me over on the X at Husker_Zeeb. ton of stuff out this week, a ton of racing articles. I've already got an Indy 500 article out. Also, there's an F1 betting article out. I got a couple of different bets that I didn't give out today in that, so make sure you check that out as well. There's a Cup Series article coming out soon, Cup Series DFS article coming out soon, F1 underdog article coming out soon, an Xfinity and Trucks underdog article coming out as well. We've got you covered this week over on sportsgamepodcast.com, so make sure you check it out. And again, we'll be back in a couple hours with the Coke 600 bets, so join us again then, and appreciate you guys. Let's keep this week rolling.
Indeed. I'm going to take a screenshot, Cody, and then send it to your wife so there's proof of life that you actually exist, because I'm starting to think that, much like mine, she hasn't seen you very much this week. So
yeah, she knows. I've been telling her for a couple of weeks. I'm like, look, honey, this week is coming up. I work in the beer business and the racing business, and it's the busiest weekend for both of them. So, well, one of the busiest weekends for beer. So that's how it goes.
Proof of life. All right. As I depart for my helicopter ride, follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on. Whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, I got an Indy article coming out later this week. And of course, in between media, check out Seth and Elliott for the Coke 600 coverage as well. Been a blast, guys. We'll see you in a couple hours for NASCAR. Or if you are listening to this on the podcast, flip it over to NASCAR and listen to the Coke 600 episode. It should be out by the time you are ready to go. Love you guys. Mean it. We'll see you soon. Till next time, let's go racing and let it ride. Oh, this is the wrong. I was playing the wrong music. Can you believe that? We'll see you guys. Jesus Christ, Rod.